Thank you so much and welcome every day today morning. I'm very honored to be part of a very distinguished panel, all of them pioneers in the entrepreneurship effort in their own right, all of them leaders in our educational institutions across the country. Let me first introduce them. Professor Ram Gopal Rao, Director, IIT Delhi. Professor Mahesh Panchagnala, Dean of Alumni and International Relations, IIT Madras. Professor Rishikesha Krishnan, Director and Professor of Strategy, IIM Bangalore, and Professor Ashok Mishra, President, IIT Alumni Center. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for being with us. Yesterday we heard from our portfolio companies, founders who are already well along their entrepreneurship journey. We also heard from industry leaders talk about their perspective on how the alumni network has supported and created a multiplier effect for our entrepreneurs moving forward. Today morning, we are going to take a step back to our grassroots, our institutes, where our entrepreneurship efforts began. Our institutes and our leaders, such as our panelists, have made tremendous efforts along the years, be it through mentoring, incubators, accelerators, innovation parks, and now through our endowment funds. And today, I'm excited to hear from them about what we can expect in the next decade, how we see our institutes and their partnerships with the alumni taking us to the next level and creating a multiplying effect for our grassroots entrepreneurs. So, Professor Rao, let me start with you, talking about the IIT Endowment Fund. From your perspective, how do you anticipate this endowment fund helping to create a multiplier effect for our entrepreneurs moving forward? And what are some of the challenges you anticipate in this, Professor Rao?
Thank you. Very happy to be here with all of you. In fact, when we launched this endowment fund, a kind of a very formal, $1 billion kind of an initiative, so many people asked, how did you get this figure billion, and where did it come from? So a lot of background work has gone into that. Vikram Gupta, in fact, from IvyCap, is one of the starters, initiators of this entire thing, and so a lot of homework has gone, many studies, and we looked at the potential of how many alumni can give back, what amounts over what period. So I think that has resulted in that kind of a figure. But even if you just do a back of envelope calculation, a place like IIT Delhi has about 50,000 alumni, right? And the cost of education, if you treat it in IITs as, let us say, $50,000, and for that matter, I should tell you there are about 17 unicorn founders from IIT Delhi alumni alone. So just imagine if each one of them pays back the dues that they owe to the education, the not even a donation, not even a philanthropy, nothing. They just pay back the cost of education that they received from these institutions. 50,000 alumni, $50,000 is $2.5 billion. And for those who cannot pay $50,000, there are, Sachin Bansals, Binny Bansals, and all of them to cover for them. I think so. Therefore, these are simple calculations, and there is absolutely no reason why in India we cannot raise these $1 billion endowments, at least for the top IITs. I'm not talking of other places and all of that, because the way our alumni have functioned, performed, I think it's well within reach. And but that giving back culture needs to be established. It's very important for multiple reasons. So for example, our primary problem right now in IITs, IIMs fortunately have come out of it, but IITs are still stuck in this ancient, financial model of running institutions, where our 93% of our funds come from just one source, that is government. Now you can say, but we do a lot of research, almost 400 to 500 crores of research, but that research goes towards establishing facilities, hiring project staff. The overheads that come to the institution out of the research we do is pretty minimal. Right now we did a survey at IIT Delhi. In the last, I would say 3 years, we did research, to the tune of about 1,600 crores, about 1,400 crores or so. The average overhead we received was 4%. In fact, the more research we do, the more money we have to spend from the institute to manage that research. Therefore, the research doesn't pay towards the cost of anything that we do on the campus. That is one of the primary factors. You do and give a project to a place like Stanford, the institute takes away anywhere from 50% to 60% of money as the overhead. Whereas in India, you can do research at 10% overhead, and people, start negotiating on the 10% kind of overhead. So that needs to change. And again, the
Okay.
tuition fee. People, the education is almost free. Our revenue from tuition today at IIT Delhi is just 7%. 93% of educational costs in an IIT are totally subsidized by one source, that is Government of India.
Yeah.
That again is not guaranteed. Next year, what funding am I going to get? I have no idea. Even in January, we don't know what is the money that will be given in the month of March or April, when the financial year starts. I think now with those sort of uncertainties, you can never run an institution. Now, I need to know tomorrow, I need to know next year, what is the budget going to look like for IIT Delhi, so that I can plan ahead activities, I can build some centers of excellence, I can hope to invest in some of these major initiatives. I can initiate major infrastructure projects. Nothing like that currently happens. So therefore, I think endowment funds is the only way for IITs to, have some autonomy, some semblance of autonomy at some stage in these for these institutions, and that's the only way we can go to the next level. With endowment funds also comes the alumni participation. If you look at the top 20 institutions in the US, 19 out of these 20 institutions will have on their board of trustees anywhere from 50% to 100% alumni. For example, you go to Harvard, every trustee on the board is actually an alumnus. You go to MIT, 78% of trustees are alumni. So people, when they give money, they also want to, see where that money is going. They also want to see how these institutes perform and rate them, rank them, work with them, help them. All of that happens with the money giving. So therefore, when we say endowment funds, we are not looking at an alumnus who gives money and forgets about it. We also want alumni to engage with these institutions, because some of the best and the finest are all, among these alumni. And if they get into the governance of these institutions, and if they get to say, what these institutions need to be, what are the priorities, they work along with the faculty and students, I think a lot of great things can happen. So we are hoping that that is the future for these institutions. And I am hoping that, we will diversify our funding models, that one-fourth model, one-fourth of money comes from endowments, one-fourth comes from overheads from research projects, one-fourth comes from the tuition fee, and one-fourth will still come from the Government of India. And but that, assuming that our budget will become, at least 2,000 crores. Today our budget is about, to run IIT Delhi, you need a minimum of 650 crores. Nothing less than that. We cannot even pay salaries anymore. But I'm hoping that we reach a stage of at least 2,000 crores of budget for these institutions, and 500 crores is what comes from each of these four sources. And that is how, that with that diversified financial model, we will be able to take up initiatives, we will be able to look into the future, plan ahead. I think all of that will happen.
Thank you so much. Very, very interesting observation. And let me just continue on that theme of endowments, Professor Mahesh, since you're so linked to the endowments also at IIT Madras. Our first reaction, and even we said that in our intro, you look at a Stanford and a Harvard and people say, oh, they have billion-dollar endowments. How do you think we in our Indian ecosystem should think differently of an endowment than what, simply looking and seeing what a Stanford or a Harvard has done? What, if anything, should we be doing differently with our endowment? Sir, you're on mute, I think.
Thank you, Anju, for having me. I think the point that Professor Rao made is very important. I've always made this argument that there are absolutely no institutions in the world that have been built by a government, and IITs as an institution have single-handedly been built by the government. Nothing in the world comes any of this repute has ever been done. And I think it's about time we took matters into our hands, and we kind of decided to support these institutions as a collective group. I want to first talk to all of the audience out there that are watching this. Now, every one of you watching is an alumnus of your alma mater. I'll give you a very simple reason why you should give back. There are two ways of getting into a very good institution, very good educational institution. One, you work your ass off, you work very hard, and you get into a good place. Alternately, you get into a place, then you work hard and give back and make it a good place. I think that's where the US model is fundamentally different. They get into whichever university is closest in most cases, but afterwards, downstream, they give back and then pad up their own degrees value, so to say, as they go along. I think this is a basic, very self-driven model that we all have to adopt. The point about endowment that I want to make here is, I think Indian university systems are still, young, hungry, thirsty teenagers. We are very young. So if an alumnus walked up to me and said, look, I really owe my success to IIT, I have 10 crores to give you. Now I can put it in a bank account and take 5% of 10 crores every year, like a 50 lakh for use every year. Or I will say, I'll partition it. I'll take 5 crores out and spend it upfront to create an institution, a center of excellence, or do something upfront with it, and invest a part of the money in the endowment. I believe at the moment we should be looking at something a little more of the hybrid kind, because we want to build more centers of excellence. We want to build more capacity, and these cannot be purely enabled from government funding alone. So as we move along, I'm sure we're going to apportion more of these funds to an endowment and less of it to what I call project style funding. But in my mind, given the very young nature of our institution, the median age at IIT Madras is 38 of the faculty. I'm sure this is true of all the IITs. We are hiring at 30 to 40 at least every year, and we need to have a way by which we can kind of satisfy their appetite for building an institution around their ideas and thinking. So in my mind, at the moment, a hybrid model is the best. I go back to my teenager analogy. Some of you may have teenage kids. You give them a bit of pocket money and ask them to invest in an endowment and watch their reaction. I think that's roughly what I find.
Thank you so much, Professor Mish. Professor Rishikesh, let me just switch this around a little bit. So, people keep talking, there's this new term people are talking about, democratization of innovation, have more people involved in it, share out its results more. From your perspective, how can, alumni and institutes partner to kind of do more of this? What's stopping us today?
I think there's lots of things alumni can do to help. One is, now a good thing is, in many of our institutes, we have faculty themselves who have good ideas, but they're not necessarily entrepreneurs. So they could help them to work with alums to take those ideas forward. I think Professor Junjunwala and IIT Madras provided an excellent example of that some years ago. We also have the opportunity for alums to invest in startups either created by the faculty or by our other students and other alumni. And many institutes have now provided vehicles for that to happen. Almost inevitably, startups need beta sites. They need a lot of industry advice. And we all have excellent alumni networks who can provide that. Most of our incubators already have alumni playing the important role of mentors and helping startups who are in the incubator. So if you just look at, there's just so many ways in which alumni and everyone can get involved in making innovation more widespread. I think it would also help if alumni identify problems to work on. Sometimes faculty don't know what are the best industry problems to work on. They know what are the best research problems to work on, but sometimes they don't know what are the industry challenges. And that's another aspect that alumni can easily fill in. So, I mean, whatever way you look at it, I think there's just plenty of ways in which alums can get involved in the innovation ecosystem in the different institutes that we have.
Thank you so much, Professor Rishikesha. Now, switching a little bit, turning this around, Professor Mishra. I mean, you've raised an interesting idea in a couple of discussions where you talk about students, entrepreneurs giving back to kind of our corporates, industries, and helping some of our traditional industries kind of bring innovation into their fold. What do you see as the next phase of this relationship, this corporate, startup, institute kind of relationship? What do you see as the next stage, kind of, taking this to the next level?
Thank you, Anju. let me begin a little bit looking at the bigger picture. So we are currently in a globalized economy state. And therefore, open innovation occupies a very significant place. Wherever it happens, it doesn't matter. Institutions of higher learning, like the IITs, NITs, and IIMs, and several others, is where knowledge is created. Any country which will have a superior higher education system will have the edge. And this is where innovation and new inventions, if I may use the word, a slight difference between the two, will attract global talent where both students and faculty can actually flourish. That's the model Stanford and MITs have done. I won't talk about endowment because that's already talked about. So therefore, we have to give a greater stress on creativity and innovation in the education system to begin with, so that we become a global economy which can contribute to the world. And since you introduced me as the president of IIT Alumni Center, I'd like to mention that we alumni, mainly sitting in Bangalore, Bengaluru as we call it, have formed the IIT Alumni Center Bengaluru. We are the only alumni network which is recognized by the Ministry of Education, and we have to give reports to the IIT Council every time that they have a meeting and they ask for it. We are making our own building. Our aim is to enhance interaction with the industry. There has been, of course, some interaction between the IITs and the industry. We want to take it to the really next level. Our audacious goal is to have projects worth 5,000 crores. 5,000 crores, which is a huge number amongst the IITs. So this is almost going 10x of what the industry funding through projects and so on come to the IITs today. And 10x in 5 years is possible. There is a communication between the two which has to be built. And one of the things that I have recognized in our experience here is that, that the industry is looking for new ideas. They are not getting the high-end talent to join the leading, especially manufacturing industry like L&T, Bharat Forge, Tata Motors. They're not getting the high-end students to join them, whatever is the ecosystem of the country. However, these very bright youngsters can contribute to these industries by having startups which will provide new knowledge, new innovation to these countries. And many of the industrialists have mentioned that we don't worry about if we are not hiring and not able to hire IIT graduates, but if they come up with new ideas which will supplement what we are doing or synergize with what we are doing, this is what we want. And IIT Alumni Center will work toward this goal. With this in mind, we have also set up in our building provided space, which should be ready within a year. It got all delayed because of pandemic, lockdowns, and so on. At least 100 incubators would be there. And we'll see how to get those incubators. We'll have a selection process and the like. And we'll try to get the industry involved in the selection of these startups so that they give back to the society, to the industry through this mode. So for all this, research and innovation leading to entrepreneurship and technology incubation take central place. The institutions have to inculcate the culture of creativity and innovation. That's a given. And I've said many times, our bright students, it doesn't matter if they do X number of courses in the curriculum. If 3 or 4 courses can be dropped and they be given opportunity to come up with an innovative research idea and given credit for it, then I think it will be a benefit for the institution, the entrepreneurs, and the industry. Industry should have an ambience where venture capitalists like IvyCap, angel investors should flock there. They should be sitting there, have somebody even posted at an institution to see what new ideas can come. Because, on the one hand, the startups are looking for funds. On the other hand, the venture capitalists should be looking for great ideas.
Absolutely.
So that synergy has to be developed.
Great.
And industry's role should be to fund, and I'd say a little strongly, as things develop, fundamental and applied research. And there's a little short-sightedness there. They want to get something which will be implemented tomorrow. No, they have to have a fundamental knowledge to be developed in the country. So in one of the recent talks that I heard, very interesting, if you've seen the movie, The Man Who Knew Infinity about Ramanujan, he's having this talk with Thomas Hardy about number theory, game theory, and all that business. At that time, it seemed, industry will say, oh, what good is it? Will it make money? And today, my goodness, that's the basis for a lot of things. So that fundamental knowledge has to be developed. So therefore, institutions must also stress on sciences as well as social sciences, because that will lead to technology. That's just, you can't just say I'll do technology development. Some
absolutely.
Sciences have to come in. And
thank you so much.
That's what I would like to.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Mishra. Let me just kind of quickly switch it around and do a little bit of a rapid fire, just 60-second answer. Professor Rishikesh, I'll start from you. If you're given a free rein, blue sky, what is the one thing you would want to happen, from an institute perspective, to multiply how fast and how successfully we're innovating and, driving entrepreneurship? 60 seconds. One thing.
I think the one thing would be to maybe building on Professor Mishra's idea. I would love it if we could allow students to do entrepreneurial projects or ventures in lieu of coursework. There's infinite coursework you can do, but I think smart students are quite good at picking up things once they've got the basics in place. So what I would love to do is, for example, in the final year, if you have students with really good ideas, I would love to let them, just do their startup in lieu of, say, 60% of the courses, and that would really help them take off.
Very interesting. Professor Mahesh?
We have world-class faculty. I'm quite convinced of that. And we have obviously the group of world-class students here. What we are not at world-class is the next level technical support to run large research centers. I cannot hire somebody paying, 25, 30 lakhs, which may be the market salary for a very good machine learning data science person, or a communication specialist, or in my field, I cannot hire an aircraft engineering specialist to run my gas turbine lab. So that layer is, I think, what I would invest in to make sure that we are able to do well. Now back to alumni, just take 10 seconds.
Sure.
My predecessor here used to say, there are 3 ways of exploiting the alumni ecosystem. You can take their time, talent, or treasure. We've asked for their treasure because it's the easiest to count and account. We all need to learn how to account for their time, ask for their time and talent. Talent is, I think, where if we can crack the talent problem with alumni, we will really be world class.
Okay, thank you. Professor Rao?
Yeah, I would know. I think if we need to change, I think you should all see, sometime, I think some of you might have experienced it, the placement session, the first day of placements. It's like a mela, in a big hall. You see,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I want that to be replaced with a kind of a startup mela. Let us say every year there is a kind of a similar thing, where all these alumni we have made big in their domains come and sit in different rooms. Our faculty, students, PhDs, everybody goes and pitches their idea to them, and then they fund these ideas. And then out of that process will come startups. I think we need to move away from this job seeker kind of a mentality to a job provider kind of a mentality when it comes to students. Students need to
please excuse me. Sorry to interrupt, but I'll have to leave.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Rishikesh. Please continue, Professor Rao.
So I think that sort of a thing is what we need to create now. I think that is again where alumni can help, and like Shark Tank kind of a thing, a much larger scale, and with many alumni and faculty, staff, students, everybody presenting their ideas. So that's one change I would like to see soon.
Interesting. Professor Mishra, 60 seconds.
I'll take even less than that. it's the people who are at the heart of the knowledge economy that I started with saying. We have to invest in people. We must invest in this world-class faculty and students that Professor Mahesh talked about and let them fly. In India, we invest in world-class cricketers, world-class this, world-class actors and whatnot. Why not do we invest on world-class faculty and students who are the basis of the economy in the country? That's all. Invest in people.
Thank you. So it's interesting, even from the IvyCap team, there's 4 of us founders at our IIT IIM alumni. From our board, we have, more than 90%, 10 plus alumni there. In our audience, we have a lot of alumni. Again, 60 seconds if I could get from you three. Today, like if we were to go back from this conference, what can I as an alumni do today to support innovation? I'll start with you, Professor Rao. What would you want from your alumni today, practically? What can I do?
There are many things you can do. For example, some examples of what happened at IIT Delhi in the last few years, which has made a huge difference, is alumni have started creating centers of excellence in areas where they are passionate about. For example, we have Arun Dugal, who he lives in Delhi, and he's vexed with the Delhi air pollution problem. He said, can we all solve it together? And he brought in people, he created a center of excellence, and he put in his own money. And now he's working very closely with us to solve this problem. A lot of things are happening there. And similarly, RD, another alumnus, he said, I want to see more smart buildings on the campus and in Delhi and in the country. And he created a big center of excellence here for smart buildings, which are, the futuristic kind of things. And similarly, Suman Sinha, who believes in renewable technologies, created a Suman Sinha renewable, center of excellence. And again, that's making, huge difference. I think that passion plus funds and the problem, I think all of these coming together, that's where alumni can contribute.
Professor Mishra?
Yeah, since you're asking about the alumni, alumni must invest in R&D because that is the base for any innovation, creativity, new ideas, inventions, innovation, all those things combined will happen. Innovations doesn't come from the heaven. It has to come from good research and development. So invest in that is the thing. They should, in my opinion, at the institutes, they should not invest in startups at the institute, but at the base of the startups. And after that, of course, they can get funding from angel funding can be provided at the institutes. And as I said again, invest in the growth of research, growth of innovation, and invest in people.
Okay, thank you. I think that's an important point. Last comment from you, Professor Mahesh.
Yeah, IIT Madras has been fortunate to have built a very robust alumni ecosystem for the last at least 6-7 years. We've been in this business. And what I have found is every time I talk to alumni, especially the ones that want to turn donors, they want to be engaged. And they want to be engaged with their image of what they were when they were a student. So that's actually the easiest engagement to make. To say, look, this was exactly, you put them in front of a student, their first thoughts are, this is what I was when I was a student. And this is what I am today. And I want this guy to also, this person to also be like me or better than me.
Absolutely.
So that connect directly between alumni and students should be enabled by faculty members in many ways. Research. We have a young research fellow program, which was funded by the class of 79 to basically get students back into research as a career. The number of students going to PhD has now dwindled quite a bit, and we want to revive that back again. We want startups. Obviously, that's the world we live in today is driven by job creators. So in every way, letting alumni connect directly with the institute and to the students. The more we enable this connect, everything else will kind of follow nicely from that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Anju, can I come in just for 30 seconds? So,
sure.
Just very quickly, just to give you some actual examples, Kanwal Rekhi funded the Center for Information Technology. Now that has become one of the best centers for IT, especially in the database system.
Okay.
A lot of our alumni who were in applied materials indirectly helped to set up Centers for Nanotechnology at IIT Bombay, which is now, I would call, world-class.
Okay.
So alumni can help directly or indirectly through the company that they work. That's all.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's unfortunate we're out of time. This has been a great discussion. Thank you, Professor Rao, Professor Mishra, Professor Mahesh, for taking the time and sharing. And let's, lots of expectations from our alumni and institutes in the next coming years. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank
Sure.
you. Goodbye.